Hi, my name is Luna. And like every girl growing up watching fairy tales, I used to believe that when love came knocking, it would be gentle, warm, and perfect. The kind of love that fits seamlessly into your life, not like the final piece of a puzzle you've been waiting for your whole life. When I met Ryan Carter, I thought I had found exactly that. He was charming, soft-spoken, and had this calm, collected way about him that felt so mature compared to the chaos of modern dating. He worked in finance, or at least that's what he said. He wasn't flashy, never bragged about money or status. And honestly, that felt refreshing. My mom, Margaret Bennett, is a well-known interior designer in Asheville, North Carolina. She's successful, fiercely intelligent, and has built everything from the ground up. She married David, my stepdad, when I was in college, and together they built a home full of grace, elegance, and Sunday morning pancakes. They're the kind of couple who hold hands without thinking. Oh, who dance in the kitchen even when no one's watching. So when I told them I was in love, I thought they'd be thrilled. But Margaret is no fool. She asked questions, not rude ones. Just the kind that make you sit up and actually think. How does he handle responsibility? Does he talk about your future together? What does he do? Exactly, Ryan didn't come from much. His parents, Gary and Susan Carter, all lived in a rural town in Georgia. They worked odd jobs and didn't have a house of their own. His brother Travis bounced around between gigs, and Travis's wife Melissa sold handmade jewelry online. Their son, Jaden, was adorable. But the family as a whole, let's just say they weren't exactly stable. Still, I loved Ryan. Deeply. Stupidly. Blindly. Maybe? And I was determined to prove to everyone that love mattered more than status, more than background, more than anything. When Ryan proposed, or rather, when I proposed and he just sort of nodded, I didn't tell my parents that I'd bought the ring myself. I didn't want them to worry. I just wanted to be happy. And in their own way. Margaret and David tried Framaters tops, lay, and David tried blank, placed, and K. They saw how much I wanted this. So instead of fighting me, they embraced the moment. They told me they had a surprise. And that's when they showed me the house, a 3-bedroom, fully renovated craftsman-style home in the Montford district of Asheville. Clean lines, sun-drenched windows, an open-concept kitchen, and a backyard that smelled like childhood. Margaret had designed every inch herself. David oversaw the contractors. They poured their love and a small fortune into this house. It's yours, my mom said, holding out the keys. A gift. For your future? I cried, not because of the house, but because of what it meant that they trusted me, supported me. And despite their reservations, they were choosing love too. That day felt like magic. Ryan smiled, said, "Thank you," gave my mom a stiff side hug. But there was something hollow in the way he looked at the house, as if it wasn't a gift, but a prize. I should have paid more attention to that look. I should have asked why he never talked about saving for a home himself, why he never offered to help with the renovations. Why? When we talked about the future, he always said, "Whatever you want, babe. I'm just along for the ride." But I didn't. I was too caught up in the dream. The next day, I went back to the house alone. I sat on the hardwood floor in the living room, sunlight painting golden lines across the walls. And I imagined everything: the wedding, the honeymoon, late-night talks on the couch, Maybe a dog. Maybe two. I thought I had it all. What I didn't know was that my housewarming would become someone else's takeover. That the home my parents built for love would become a battlefield. That the family I was marrying into was already planning their invasion. But I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that I was Luna, and I was in love. Blindly so. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon. The house still smelled like new paint and lemon wood polish. I had just stepped into the kitchen, admiring the custom cabinetry my mom had obsessed over for weeks. When my phone buzzed, it was a text from Ryan. "Hey, babe. My family's in town. I told them to swing by the house early." "Hope that's okay," I blinked. Early as in? Days before the wedding, before we'd even settled in, before I could respond. The front door creaked open. No knock. No doorbell. Just footsteps. Loud. Unapologetic. Uninvited. Dumb. This neighborhood's like a ghost town. A voice barked from the hallway. No one's even outside. And what's with this iron gate out front looks like a jail? I froze. That voice didn't belong to Ryan. Curtis. Another voice snapped shrill and judgmental. "Go take those ridiculous bars off the gate." What if guests come? Are we supposed to make them wait on the curb like trash? That was definitely Susan Carter. I walked slowly toward the front of the house, and there they were, Ryan's entire family, standing in the entryway with luggage. Suitcases. Duffel bags. Shopping totes. Even a damn crock pot. Luna Susan beamed like we were old friends. "Your photos didn't do you justice. This place is even bigger in person. So much better than our last place. So temporary." I tried to mask my confusion. "You're here early. I thought, oh, sweetie." She cut in, waving her hand like she was swatting a fly. The hotel was overpriced and cramped. We figured, since this is our home now, might as well get comfortable. Our home. That one word hit like a slap, and before I could respond, Gary Carter let out a booming laugh from the hallway. "Now this is a real bedroom," he shouted. "Big windows. Plenty of sunlight. We'll take the master. Gotta rest these old bones." Ya know, I rushed to the master bedroom. Susan was already sprawled across the bed. Shoes on. Socks off. Leaving little dirt smudges on the fresh white linens. Gary stood nearby, puffing on a cigarette like it was the 1980s. "Please don't smoke in here," I said, trying to stay calm. "This is a non-smoking house." Gary rolled his eyes, then snuffed the cigarette out on the mahogany nightstand like it was a gas station ashtray. A black scorch mark bloomed where the lacquer once gleamed. I opened my mouth to speak, but words died on my tongue. Where was Ryan? I found him in the kitchen, unpacking groceries, their groceries into my fridge. "Ryan," I said carefully. "What's going on? Why are they?" "Oh, moving in!" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I know it's a little sudden, but they're just excited. This house, it's big. They don't have much back home. I figured we could share for a bit." "Share," I repeated. Stunned. "We're getting married. Not opening a hostel." Ryan gave me a sheepish look. "Come on, Luna. Don't overreact." I turned to find Susan standing in the doorway, arms crossed. "Look," she said, "we're not here to cause trouble. It just doesn't make sense for a family to be split up like this. Travis and Melissa are driving down tomorrow. Jaden will need the guest room." Jaden echoed. "My grandson," she said proudly. "He's 5. Needs his own space." So I was thinking you and Ryan can take the smaller room upstairs. You don't need much space yet. Not until you start popping out grandbabies. It felt like a joke. A bad one. But no one was laughing. Not them. And certainly not me. You don't get to assign rooms, I said flatly. Susan narrowed her eyes. Excuse me, this house was a gift. From my parents. To me. You weren't even supposed to be here yet. She laughed as if I had told her the punchline to the world's dumbest joke. Oh, honey, once you marry my son, everything that's yours becomes his and what's his, well, becomes ours. I stared at her, stunned. And then came the final blow. Gary peeked around the corner. Hey, Rye called Travis. Told him to cancel the lease. We'll get his name on the deed soon enough. His name on the deed. That's when I knew. This wasn't love. This wasn't family. This was a hostile takeover. And I was just a walking key to real estate. I looked at Ryan, my fiancé, the man I thought I knew. He said nothing. Not a word. Not a protest. Just stood there. Eyes on the floor. In that moment, something inside me cracked, and something else began to rise in its place. Something stronger. Something that didn't come with a smile. I don't remember exactly how long I stood there. Watching Ryan avoid my eyes while his parents took possession of my life like they were moving furniture. But I do remember the silence. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't thoughtful. It was cowardly, and it was deafening. Susan leaned against the doorframe of what was supposed to be our bedroom and smiled like a cat surveying her catch. I know this is a lot to take in, Luna. But don't worry, once you settle into your role, everything will fall into place. My role, I repeated slowly. Gary chuckled. You know, taking care of the home, cooking, cleaning, making sure my son's family is comfortable. That's what a good wife does. My hands curled into fists. And if you're overwhelmed, Susan added sweetly, maybe ask your parents to hire someone. A maid? You clearly don't look like someone who's used to housework. There it was. The mask was off. These people didn't just want a room. They wanted control. They didn't see me as a partner in this marriage. They saw me as a servant with a nice house. Still, I waited for Ryan to say something. Anything. One word. One glance. One breath of defense. But he stayed rooted where he was. Like a scared little boy, hoping Mom and Dad wouldn't scold him. The final blow came from Susan. Her voice tinged with sarcasm. You should be grateful. Not every man would settle for someone with your personality. You think you're too good for us. Don't you? That just because your mother's name is on some fancy architecture magazine, you get to look down on people like us. Something in me broke. No. I said quietly, I don't think I'm too good for you. I think I'm too sane for this circus. Gary's face darkened. You're speaking to your future in-laws. Show some respect. Respect is earned, Blake. I replied. And so far, all you've earned is a front row seat to the door. I turned to Ryan, my voice trembling, but my spine straight. Say something. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then finally muttered. Can't you just be a little flexible? Luna, you're always throwing tantrums. My parents mean well. That was it. I took a step back. Like I needed distance from his words. But it wasn't just distance, it was clarity. I saw him fully. Maybe for the first time. Not the quiet, thoughtful man I had imagined, but a spineless presence. Passive shadow clinging to the coattails of people louder than him. My voice dropped. Flat and final. I'm calling off the wedding. The air froze. Susan blinked. Excuse me, I said, we're done? This is over. You can all leave. Now, Ryan reached for my wrist. Just like he always did when he wanted to calm me down. That gentle. Fake concern that masked control. Luna. Don't do this. Don't throw everything away over a misunderstanding. I pulled my arm away like his touch burned. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a wake-up call. Susan scoffed. Do you hear this? Travis was right. She's a spoiled brat who thinks love is a real estate transaction. If you walk away from Ryan, don't expect anyone else to put up with you. I laughed. A bitter, exhausted sound. You think I'm afraid to be alone? I would rather eat dinner in an empty room for the rest of my life than share a roof with people who see me as a doormat. Gary stepped forward. His tone low and condescending. You think you're special just because your parents bought you a house. You're past your prime. Sweetheart, no man's gonna put up with this attitude. Ryan was doing you a favor. That's when David, my stepdad, walked in. And for the first time in years, I saw him truly angry. You don't talk to my daughter like that, he said, his voice like thunder rumbling in the distance. And you don't step foot in this house again. Gary stepped back, startled. You're threatening me? No. David replied calmly. I'm promising you. Ryan, still in the kitchen, tried to salvage whatever scrap of control he had left. You're overreacting. Luna. Please. Just apologize to my parents and let's move on. I looked him in the eyes. And I felt nothing. No love. No regret. Just relief. You had every chance to stand up for me. Every single chance. I said. And all you did was stand there. I looked lost. Like a man who realized too late that his safety net had disappeared. And I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Power. Ryan stood frozen in the kitchen. His hand still slightly extended like he could somehow rewind the moment. His lips parted, searching for words. But nothing came. Silence. And then? The storm. Susan's voice pierced the air like shattered glass. This is absolutely ridiculous. You're throwing away a good man and a future because of a little disagreement over a house. Do you know how many girls would kill for a man like Ryan? I turned to her. Steady and unblinking. Then please, send them my way. I'll hand him over gift wrapped. Her face twisted with rage. You'll regret this. No. I said, what I regret is thinking I had to earn your approval. That I needed to shrink to fit into your world. Gary took a threatening step forward. Eyes narrowing. You don't talk to my wife like that. Who do you think you are? Before I could answer, another voice sliced through the tension. David. He stepped forward from the hallway with slow, deliberate steps, eyes burning, jaw clenched, his hand still curled from the doorknob. You talk to my daughter that way again, he said. And I'll forget I'm wearing a tie. Gary scoffed. Please, don't act like you're some hero. You people, so full of yourselves. Just because you have money, and that's when David punched him. One clean shot. Years of restraint, disbelief, and parental fury behind it. Gary stumbled backward, hitting the wall with a dull thud before sliding down to the floor. Stunned, Susan screamed, You're insane, you'll go to jail for this. David loomed over him. Calm, unshaken. Then you better file the report while walking out that door. Because you've got 60 seconds. Gary coughed, clutching his cheek. You're all crazy. No, Margaret said, stepping in now, her voice like ice under silk. "We're just not spineless. Now get out of my daughter's house before I call the sheriff and the local news." Susan grabbed her purse, muttering curses under her breath. "Ryan, let's go. We don't need this." But Ryan didn't move. He just stood there, ghost pale, blinking like he was still trying to process what had happened. "You coming?" Susan barked. Ryan looked at me then, his eyes pleading, almost childlike. "Luna, I know this got out of hand, but don't throw away what we have. My parents, they're just a little intense." I raised an eyebrow. "Intense, Ryan? They invaded my home, insulted my family, planned to give my house to your brother, and told me I should be grateful to clean their dishes. He didn't answer. He couldn't, because he knew I was right. Please," he said, voice small. "Don't do this. I still love you. I believe you." I replied quietly, "But love means nothing without respect. And the man I thought you were would have fought for me." Susan let out one last dramatic sigh and headed toward the door, pulling Ryan behind her like a lost puppy. But just as they reached the porch, she turned back, finger pointed like a dagger. "You'll end up alone. Luna. Girls like you always do. Too proud. Too cold. One day, you'll wish you had someone who loved you the way my son did." Margaret stepped beside me, arms crossed. "If your definition of love involves leeching off a woman and calling her selfish when she finally says no, then I'll take solitude any day." Susan scoffed, but didn't respond. She pushed the door open so hard it slammed into the wall. And then they were gone. For a long moment, the house was still. No footsteps. No shouting. No smoke curling into the ceiling. Just quiet. David let out a breath, massaging his knuckles. "Sorry about the wall," he muttered. Margaret smiled faintly. "I'll repaint it. Worth it." I sat down on the edge of the coffee table, exhaling for what felt like the first time all day. My hands were still shaking, but my heart felt strangely light. I had let go of something toxic. And it wasn't just Ryan. It was the belief that I had to settle to be loved. Later that night, I found Ryan had sent me a message. "I know we both said things we didn't mean, but please don't let this be the end. My parents won't be involved anymore. Just give me a chance to prove it." I stared at the screen, unmoved. The next day, I blocked his number. Not out of spite. Not out of anger. But because when you realize someone only loves the version of you that's convenient for them, it's time to walk away. Not for drama. Not for revenge. But for peace. And peace is what I chose. A week after the fallout, I started to breathe again. The silence in the house felt sacred. No stomping feet. No cigarette smoke. No backhanded comments about my attitude. Just me. Peaceful. Quiet me. Then came the email. No subject line. Just a message from Ryan's address, saying that it's souvent för M. Since the wedding was called off, I think it's only fair you reimburse me for the money I spent during our relationship. Attached was an Excel spreadsheet, color-coded, itemized, with dates, locations, and precise dollar amounts. Starbucks, dos cappuccinos, 9. Leisure, Valentine's Day, bouquet. Deceit. Ling, Uber to dinner, 13. 75. Dinner at Olive Garden, 43. 20 split 50/50ths. Your half $21. Leisure, movie tickets $24. Ling, birthday gift card, $200. Ling. And on it went. A year's worth of transactional nonsense. As if loving me had been some kind of investment portfolio and I had failed to deliver returns. At the bottom, in bold font total, $2. 913. 82, he even added. Rounded generously. I stared at the screen in disbelief. This man, the same man who couldn't afford a ring, who never once picked up a dinner tab without a sigh, was now charging me for coffee. My mom, Margaret, read it over my shoulder and let out the most elegant scoff I've ever heard. Write the check, she said. David raised an eyebrow. You serious? I'm dead serious. She replied. But we're not mailing it. We're delivering it. In person. 2 days later, we walked into the lobby of the firm where Ryan worked. I was calm, dressed in a fitted navy suit, heels clicking like a metronome of finality across the tile floor. Ryan was standing in the reception area. Behind him, his mother and father. Again? Of course. Susan was mid-rant. Your daughter used my son. She took advantage of his generosity. And now she thinks she can walk away like nothing happened? No. Mom? We came here for what we're owed. People were staring. Phones were being pulled out. The entire office floor was frozen in awkward suspense. Margaret stepped forward. Calm and composed. Let's talk numbers then. Shall we? She said, pulling a folded check from her purse. This is for the full amount your son requested, $2. 913. 82, she said, holding it out. Every coffee, every bouquet, every Uber ride. Paid in full. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Susan snatched the check from her hand like it was a prize. Well, that's something. At least. But Margaret wasn't done. Now, she continued, her voice rising just enough. Let's discuss what your son owes Luna. She turned to the gathered employees and witnesses. Let's talk about the iPhone. Luna bought Ryan for his birthday $1.99 plus tax. The hospital gift when Gary had his surgery $1. Wubai. All the dinners, weekends, and rides she paid for. Easily over $3. Lynn, David added with a smirk. Not to mention the house you all tried to steal. Murmurs broke out. Someone laughed. Even the receptionist raised an eyebrow. Ryan turned red, visibly sweating. He mumbled. That's not fair. That stuff wasn't part of any agreement. Oh, Margaret said. Sweet as honey. So only your money counts. Got it. Gary stepped in, trying to salvage control. This is slander. You people are manipulating facts. But Margaret already had her phone out, showing receipts, photos, screenshots of text messages. She had every number, every date. This isn't slander, she said. It's called evidence. Then I stepped forward. I looked straight at Ryan. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I'm done with you sending emails. I'm done with the lies. I'm done with your parents showing up at my job. If it happens again, we'll settle this legally. He opened his mouth. But nothing came out. Susan hissed. You'll regret humiliating us like this. I tilted my head. I don't need to humiliate you. You did that all by yourselves. With that, we walked out 3 steps ahead of their crumbling dignity. That night, I unblocked Ryan's number just long enough to send him one final message. Debts are settled. Boundaries are set. Any further contact will be considered harassment. Have a good life. I reblocked him and turned my phone off. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. No fear. No guilt. No weight pressing on my chest. Just peace. And a locked door. It's funny how silence used to terrify me. After Ryan and the chaos he brought into my life, I associated quiet with loneliness, with abandonment, with the eerie echo of being not enough. But now, silence feels like a sunrise. I wake up without tension in my shoulders. I sip coffee without wondering who's going to show up uninvited. I walk barefoot across my living room and feel the wood floors, as if for the first time, I'm not walking on eggshells anymore. I'm walking on freedom. A few weeks after the confrontation at Ryan's office, I started doing something I hadn't done in years, talking to myself. Not the nervous, spiraling kind of talk, but real, warm, encouraging self-talk. Hey, Luna, you did the hard thing. You walked away. Hey, Luna, you're not broken. You're just rebuilding. I started writing again. Not emails. Not texts. But journals. Pages filled with the truth I had silenced for too long. The anger I denied. The love I had for myself that I once treated like a luxury. And slowly, I began putting pieces of myself back together, not as the woman Ryan wanted me to be, but as the woman I was always meant to be. One Saturday morning, I drove to the edge of town, where there was a pottery studio I used to pass on my commute but never had the time or courage to enter. That day, I walked in. The owner, a woman named Janine, greeted me with clay-covered hands and the kind of smile you only give to someone who's trying to come alive again. First time, she asked. First time doing something just for me. I replied. She handed me a lump of clay and guided me to the wheel. Let's make a mess, she said, and so I did. I made lopsided bowls and cracked mugs and weird little sculptures that looked like melted mushrooms. But every creation, no matter how flawed, felt like a tiny declaration. I'm still here. I still matter. I am more than what I lost. Janine eventually became more than a teacher. She became a friend. She didn't ask about my past. She didn't need to. She saw it in my hands, in the way I threw my pain into the clay. And she never once tried to fix me. She simply said, "Make something honest." Meanwhile, my mom and David became my foundation. Not the overbearing kind. The solid, steady kind. Margaret started leaving notes on the fridge. Don't forget to eat. You're worth 3 meals a day. Your strength doesn't scare me. It inspires me. You don't owe anyone softness if they don't offer it back. David sweet. Silent. Protective David fixed the door Susan had slammed open, patched the wall where Gary's ego had landed, and planted sunflowers in my front yard. I read they grow toward the sun, he said with a wink. Figured you'd like a reminder. I did. Every morning. They were waiting. Tall and open. Like they were cheering me on. One evening, I got a message from a woman I didn't know. Hi, Luna. You don't know me, but I used to date Ryan's brother, Travis. I just wanted to say thank you for standing up for yourself. That whole family, they make you feel like you're the problem. You showed me it's okay to walk away. I sat with that message for a long time, because it reminded me that healing isn't just personal, it's generational. When we choose dignity over dysfunction, we give permission to others to do the same. Months passed. I didn't just repair what was broken, I remodeled it. I changed the paint in the living room to a dusty rose, hung photos from solo hikes and late-night dance parties with friends who never made me feel small. I even bought a new couch, just because I wanted one. I stopped looking at the front door expecting someone toxic to walk through it. Now, when the doorbell rings, I smile. Because I know I've chosen who belongs in my life. And more importantly, I've chosen who doesn't. I once thought the worst thing that could happen was losing love. But the truth is, the worst thing would have been losing myself trying to keep it. And now I look in the mirror and see a woman who walked through fire and came out with hands full of clay. Ready to shape something better. Something honest. Something mine.